When your mind feels heavy, it doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow, quiet build-up thoughts, stacking on top of each other until you can tell where one ends and the next begins. You try to think clearly, to find a straight line in the chaos, but everything feels tangled. And if you've been feeling mentally crowded, overstimulated, or unable to focus lately, you're not alone. Most people don't realize that the reason their thoughts feel so loud is because their mind has been carrying too much for too long. So for the next few minutes, I want you to pause, breathe, and give yourself permission to simply be here. Because together, we're going to gently unravel that heaviness and help your mind become light, quiet, and clear again. The truth is, a heavy mind isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of overload. Every day, your brain absorbs more information than it can process. Notifications buzzing, unfinished tasks piling up, emotions you didn't have time to feel, decisions waiting for answers, responsibilities that never stop growing. Even when your body is still, your mind keeps moving, constantly trying to keep up. Mental heaviness doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means something is demanding your attention. Your mind is asking for rest, space, and clarity. Sometimes the world becomes too loud, and your inner voice becomes too quiet to hear. Think about the last time you tried to focus, but felt stuck. Or when you tried to relax, but the noise inside your head wouldn't let you. That's the weight you've been carrying. Not physical weight, but emotional and cognitive weight. Memories, worries, expectations, pressure. And you've been holding all of it without even noticing. That's why you feel tired even after sleeping. Why small tasks feel big. Why thinking feels harder than it should. Your mind is in malfunctioning. It's just exhausted. And that's where this journey begins. Not with pushing yourself harder, not with forcing clarity, but with understanding what's happening inside you. Before we talk about solutions, before we talk about rebuilding clarity, we need to slow everything down, because only a quiet mind can hear what it truly needs. So as we go forward, imagine this video as a soft reset moment, where the world pauses, your thoughts settle, and your mind finally has the space to breathe again. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Identifying the source of mental heaviness. Mental heaviness rarely comes from one single thing. It comes from small stresses, unfinished thoughts, emotional tension, and unspoken worries that quietly build up over time. Most people try to fight this heaviness by forcing themselves to think clearer, work harder, or push through the fog. But clarity doesn't come from pressure. It starts with understanding. Your mind can't let go of something that it hasn't properly identified. So the first step is simply noticing what's weighing on you. Sit with yourself for just a moment and ask a gentle question. What exactly is making my mind feel heavy today? Not this week. Not this month. Just today. Maybe it's a conversation you haven't had. Maybe it's a task you keep postponing. Maybe it's emotions you never fully acknowledge because you were too busy surviving the day. Or maybe it's a decision you've been avoiding because you're afraid of choosing wrong. The mind often gets crowded not because of how much we're dealing with, but because of how much we're carrying in silence. When you name the weight, it becomes lighter. When you identify the knot, it becomes easier to untangle. Awareness creates space. And space is the foundation of clarity. This chapter isn't about solving anything yet. It's about recognizing what your mind is trying to hold together. Once you can name what's heavy, the path toward clear thinking finally begins to appear. Chapter 2. Reducing cognitive overload. Removing noise. Your brain was never designed to process the amount of stimulation modern life throws at it. Every notification, every message, every headline, every unfinished task steals a small piece of your attention. One or two distractions don't seem like much, but dozens of them every single day create mental overload. It's like trying to listen to someone speak in a room where everyone is talking at once. The problem isn't that you can't focus. The problem is that you're surrounded by noise. Cognitive overload happens silently. You don't feel it building, but you feel its effects. Confusion, irritability, short attention span, and the sense that your mind is constantly full. When your mental space is crowded, even simple thoughts feel heavy. Clear thinking becomes almost impossible because your brain is still busy processing hundreds of tiny inputs that you never asked for. One of the most powerful ways to create clarity is to cut the noise just for a little while. You don't need to disappear into the mountains or meditate for hours. Start with something small. Turn off notifications for 30 minutes. Put your phone in another room. Sit in silence, without music or screens, or take a slow walk with no intention except to be present. These moments of quiet act like a reset button for the mind. When the noise fades, your real thoughts surface. When stimulation decreases, clarity increases. Stillness isn't a luxury, it's a requirement for a clear mind. The world will always be loud, but you can choose to step into pockets of silence. That's where clarity begins to grow. Chapter 3. Focusing on one thought at a time. When your mind feels heavy, it's usually because it's trying to solve everything at the same time. Thoughts blend together. Worries, memories, plans, fears, responsibilities. Your brain jumps from one thought to another so quickly that nothing gets resolved. This is why everything feels complicated. It's not that your problems are too big, it's that you're trying to carry all of them at once. Think of your mind like a computer. When too many tabs are open, everything slows down. The system doesn't break because of one tab. It breaks because of all the tabs running together. The human mind works the exact same way. Trying to think clearly while juggling multiple thoughts is like trying to read in a room full of shouting voices. You can't hear the one thought that matters. This is where the one thought rule comes in. When your mind starts racing, pause and ask yourself, what is the one thought I actually need to deal with right now? Not 10 thoughts. Not all your worries. Just one. Maybe the thought is a decision you need to make. Maybe it's a feeling you haven't processed. Maybe it's a task that's been haunting you quietly in the background. Whatever it is. Focus on that single thread. Imagine yourself gently pulling it out from the tangles so you can finally see it clearly. When you focus on one thought, the chaos begins to separate. And once separation happens, clarity follows. The mind becomes calm, not when it has fewer problems, but when it deals with them one at a time. Chapter 4. Releasing emotional weight, the quiet reset. Mental heaviness isn't only about thinking, it's also about feeling. Many people carry emotional weight without realizing it. Disappointment they never expressed, sadness they never processed, stress they never acknowledged. These feelings sit in the background like quiet shadows, pulling at your energy and stealing space in your mind. The more you ignore them, the heavier they become, and eventually, they blur your thinking. Emotional weight doesn't mean you are weak. It simply means you are human. But the modern world teaches us to suppress emotions, to stay busy, to stay distracted, to always move on. That doesn't release emotional weight, it traps, and trapped emotion becomes mental fog. One of the most powerful clarity practices is giving your emotions a moment of stillness. You don't need to fix them. You just need to acknowledge them. Sit in silence with your thoughts. Let your feelings exist without judgment. Ask yourself gently, what emotion have I been avoiding? It might be stress. It might be confusion. It might be sadness. And it's okay. Writing your feelings down can help release them. Not writing beautifully or perfectly, just putting them on paper so your mind doesn't have to hold them anymore. Even a few sentences can lift a surprising amount of weight. The mind becomes lighter when feelings are allowed to breathe. Clarity isn't created by ignoring emotions. It's created by understanding them. Once you release what your heart has been holding, your mind begins to open again, and in that quiet space, clear thinking naturally returns. Chapter 5. Rebuilding clarity with small, intentional actions. Once your mind has space, clarity grows through small movements, not big changes. Most people think they need a perfect plan or dramatic transformation to feel clear again. But mental clarity doesn't come from grand decisions. It comes from simple actions that bring order, direction, and control back into your life. When your mind feels heavy, start with something small. Clean one tiny corner of your room. Answer just one message you've been avoiding. Complete one small task that's been lingering in your mind. These small actions do something powerful. They reduce uncertainty. Uncertainty creates mental fog because your brain keeps replaying unfinished tasks in the background. but every completed action removes one piece of that mental noise. Clarity grows with structure. Pick one priority for the day. Just one. Focus on it gently, without pressure. When you finish that one priority, your mind feels lighter, stronger, and more organized. This creates a chain reaction. One clear action leads to one clear thought, which leads to the next clear decision. Movement creates clarity because action gives your mind direction. Instead of wandering through endless thoughts, your brain starts to follow a straight path. Even the smallest progress sends a signal to your mind. We're moving forward. And that signal breaks the heaviness. You don't need your entire life figured out to think clearly. You just need one small step that pulls you out of the fog. And once you take that step, the next one always becomes easier to see. This is how clarity returns, not suddenly, but gently, one small action at a time. As you reach the end of this journey, take a moment to notice something. Your mind already feels lighter than when you began. Not because every problem has been solved, not because every thought has disappeared, but because you finally gave yourself space to breathe. Mental clarity isn't a destination you arrive at, it's a state you create. Gently, one small moment at a time. Your mind becomes heavy when it carries too much for too long. But clarity begins the moment you slow down. Notice what you're holding, and allow yourself to let go of what no longer needs to stay. Today, you took steps toward understanding your thoughts instead of fighting them. You chose silence over noise. You separated one thought from many. You acknowledged emotions that needed your attention. And you took small actions that started restoring direction. Remember this: your mind is not broken. It's tired. It's overstimulated. It's overwhelmed. And it's asking for kindness, not pressure. When life becomes loud, choose a moment of stillness. When thoughts become tangled, choose one to focus on. When emotions feel heavy, let them breathe. When clarity feels far away, take one small step forward. You don't need to have everything figured out. Clarity doesn't come from having all the answers, it comes from creating space to hear yourself again. And whenever you feel lost, come back to this quiet place. Rewatch this. Recenter. Reset. Your mind knows how to find clarity. It just needs room to do it. Thank you for spending these minutes with me. If you want more calm, more clarity, and more peace in your life, you're always welcome here.